So you come to Scotland and you're looking for rugby royalty. And I had the pleasure of playing against this man. When I was picking World 15s, when I was growing up, you were my starting fullback.
Really?
Gavin Hastings, you were.
Oh,
You were my
thank you.
starting fullback. But you're a little bit older than me. And we got to play against each other. And was I playing in your very last 1995?
You
Was
were
the
indeed.
quarterfinal?
The quarterfinal.
But let's not
indeed.
talk about that, because I want to talk about where it all started. We'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
But where it all started against the All Blacks. And it was actually just across here, right? That's what you were saying?
Extraordinary, yeah. This is the home of Watsonians Rugby Club, one of the foremost rugby clubs here in Scotland. And I played for Edinburgh in my very first game for Edinburgh, almost, I think, against the All Blacks. And who was the man? It wasn't Jeff Wilson that captained, it was Stu Wilson, wasn't
right.
it?
Was he captain in the All Blacks?
He was captain in the All Blacks, 1983, and I think the score was about 13-3. It was the first game of the tour. And later, a few weeks later, Scotland drew 25-all with the All Blacks at Murrayfield here. And that's the closest Scotland have ever come to a victory against you guys.
Can you believe, I mean, you think about what's happened even this season for the All Blacks and what's happened in recent years. Can you still believe that Scotland haven't managed to find that one big performance? Could we see it this week at Murrayfield?
Well, we could, because Finn Russell is back.
Oh, he's back, seriously.
He's back. And so anything is possible with Finn Russell in the team. Whenever I watch him playing, and he plays with a smile, he plays, I think, amongst any rugby player, he plays with as big a smile as anybody. And that's what I love about Finn Russell, genuinely. And he has this sort of carefree attitude. And if Scotland are ever going to beat the All Blacks, we need to somehow work a miracle and work a carefree attitude. And Finn Russell is the man that could do it.
5 years ago, 2017, they were right there. Stuart Hogg makes that break down the left-hand side. I think it's Bowden Barrett is coming back and making that try-saving tackle every so often, and it's different. And what about your experience? Is the difference between playing the All Blacks at Murrayfield versus playing the All Blacks anywhere else?
Well, it's interesting, Jeff, because in 1990 we came out as Grand Slam champions and played a two-test tour against New Zealand, and we came very close, but not close enough. And I always sort of felt, and obviously 3 years later I captained the Lions in New Zealand, and my overriding, looking back, thinking the best chance you have is being in New Zealand. This would be my thing, because you get into the way that New Zealanders are and you get into the way that they're playing. And I think it's very difficult to play New Zealand in a one-off game, because it's just so fast compared to a lot of the other games that you play. And yet, you know, sport is such, you've always got to have a chance in sport, don't you?
Yeah.
Even though the odds are stacked against you. So come on, Scotland, we can do it.
Did it feel different for you, playing against the All Blacks, playing against other sides?
Well, I think you knew that you had to play your very, very best game in order to only ever have a chance of winning. And I was on two winning sides against the All Blacks, one British and Irish Lions 15, and the second time a World 15. And on both occasions you could see just what it meant to not only our winning side, but also the devastation it almost caused in the All Blacks camp. And you knew you were in for a hell of a game the following week. And you know, it didn't happen so often then that they would lose two in the bounce. Maybe a wee bit more frequently it's happened. But still, every challenge against the All Blacks is a massive challenge.
Look at the world game right now. I mean, you look at what happened last weekend. You look at the contest and how close they are and the upsets.
Yeah.
You would say perceived upsets.
Yeah.
Argentina comes to New Zealand and wins. Argentina goes to Twickenham and they beat England. You think about the world game right now. Do you think it's ever been closer than it is?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I do think that professionalism has given teams an ability to be closer to the likes of South Africa and New Zealand, and you know, that's great for the game, isn't it? You know, you don't want to be going into a World Cup and saying these guys are the overwhelming favourites and whatever else. So, you know, I think looking ahead to a year's time, I think there's probably more teams that are capable of winning a World Cup than ever before, and I think that's fantastic.
It's a far cry from here, where it all started for you. Where will you be for the game at Murrayfield? Where will you be? Do you like? Are you in the crowd? Are you in the stand? Are you in a box? Where are you to try and enjoy the occasion?
Yeah, well, I would have. My son was started last week and unfortunately got injured, and that's probably allowed Finn to come back in. But I think it's right that Finn is there. So the cameras sometimes always seem to find my wife and I in the West Stand. And
do you know that's why I didn't bring it up? The Finn Russell thing, you brought it up.
I brought it up.
Yeah, but you've got a son.
Yeah,
How proud does that make you feel?
It makes me feel very proud, but equally, you want the best team out there for Scotland and giving themselves the best chance of victory. And I'm not just saying this for the sake of it. I love it when my son pulls on the great blue jersey of Scotland and doing well, and by and large he's done very well every time he's pulled on that jersey. But if he's not quite as good as Finn Russell, then he has to get better, and that's called evolution, isn't it? And that's called, that's the what makes great teams. It just pushing people along and making teams get better, and the All Blacks always find a way. Whenever you think that they're down, they'll find a way to come back and win. But Saturday will be interesting. I think Sunday, sorry. It's going to be tough for Scotland, but we've got nothing to lose, and I think that the crowd will be amazing. And a Sunday game, it just doesn't sort of sit right with me.
Because are you worried about? I was about to say, are you worried about Monday morning in case you win? That's what you're worried about. I don't think it doesn't bother you, right?
If I witness Scotland's first ever victory of the All Blacks, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. We'll still be partying, all right?
This camera will come and find you if it happens. It is so good to see you.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And hi to New Zealand.